Okay, I started because we were at 9 minutes. I just started the camera for the second time, so
Okay, there we go.
this is statute, right?
This is statute of limitations, which we talked a little bit about before, but we're going to hit again.
Yeah.
April 15th. All right, here we go. The following presentation is a service of ATG Trust. My guest is tax lawyer Rob Woodley, is host of the Tax Law Channel and partner at Wood Porter in San Francisco. He is a prolific writer, and we have another article in Perspective in the Los Angeles Daily Journal. This deals with the IRS statute of limitations and how it impacts your taxes. Robert, thanks for talking with us. Welcome.
Thanks. Nice to be here again.
Well, we always talk about the statute of limitations, and I think in past broadcasts, as being 3 years is kind of the standard. And am I correct there still?
Yeah. And, first and foremost, 3 years. That's the main statute that applies at the federal level, and there are exceptions, but in general, yes, you can assume that the IRS always has 3 years to come after you.
So there are some exceptions when we're talking about a great deal of income that's not being reported, or maybe, I guess, if there's been some sort of fraud, perhaps, then the IRS pretty much takes the gloves off and they have as much time as they want.
Yeah, that's right. If you and one other one that you didn't mention. Actually, I may not even mention it in the article, although I hope I do, and that is if you don't file a return, then the statute can't run. I guess you get that from the definition, because the 3 years that you mentioned normally runs from the filing of a return. But you're right, Scott. Two big exceptions are 6 years. That is not 3. They get twice as long to audit or come after you in the event you omit a substantial part, which generally means 25% or more of your income. And then the second one, although it's much less applicable, would be if the IRS can prove fraud. I guess then you can analogize it to, I guess it's like the criminal law statute of limitations on murder. It never runs. Well, a statute on fraudulent tax activity never runs. Beyond that, though, 3 years is the main one, 6 years if you omit more than 25% of your income.
So those are the firm time limits here. And is it safe to say that the IRS doesn't always recognize that and may send you documentation with an intention to audit, and it's almost up to you sometimes to go, hey, it's been 3 years. I got to remind you that you really can't do this.
Yeah, it is. I guess the statute of limitations. You're absolutely right. It's one of these things that you need to always remember as a potential defense. Certainly, if you're represented by a tax lawyer or an accountant, they should be raising these issues for you and reminding you. But it does happen where the government, the IRS, or state tax authorities will send you a notice after the statute of limitations, and so typically your defense would be it's too late, but if it's not too late, and if I lose that battle, then you could talk about the substance. But it does happen. The other thing that happens frequently is the IRS may come up or be about to come up against the statute of limitations deadline, and they may ask you to extend it.
And you would recommend, in most cases, to go ahead if everything seems logical to you, or to refuse. And if you refuse, then I think that kind of raises a red flag, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, normally, and I think most tax lawyers, the overwhelming majority of tax lawyers will tell you that if you are asked to consent to an extension of the statute, you should grant it. Now, that may be counterintuitive. I think many taxpayers, especially if they already are feeling, a little bit of disquiet about an audit, they don't want it to go on for another year or something like that. But generally, if you say no when they ask for more time, generally they're going to just issue a tax notice, like a deficiency notice, based on whatever information they have. And that usually is a disadvantage usually you're better off agreeing, but sometimes you can limit the time period. You can say, I'm not going to, I'm going to give you another year, for example, not another 3 years. Sometimes also you can limit it to the issues, so that if they're inquiring mostly about your charitable contributions, you might say, I'm going to, can I limit the extension to charitable contributions? Either of those things your advisor may be able to do for you.
As we close it out here, if I'm particularly detail-oriented and I just want to get it done, and if I file on January 1st, does the time period start on that date, or is it the due date?
Oh, good question. It's that 3 years, and you could see how in the future you might think, 2 weeks or so might make a difference. And the answer is, in your example, April 1, is the day you file, but the return is actually due April 15, so the 3-year measurement period runs from the due date, April 15. So if you file early, if you file in January, extremely early, it doesn't, in terms of the overall running of the 3-year statute, it doesn't benefit you. Which is not to say you shouldn't file early, it's just that you need to remember it's 3 years from the due date, but conversely, if you file late, if you filed in May, let's say, it would be 3 years after that actual filing date, because that's later than the April 15 due date. So it's a bit confusing.
Well, I'm glad that we have you here to make things less confusing, Rob.
Well, it's if only I were here to also pay your taxes, that would be even better.
You can work on that. That's a good theory. I like that.
Yeah.
If you're perplexed and you need some help, you can always find Rob at Wood and Porter in San Francisco at woodporter.com. He is host of the Tax Law Channel here on the Legal Broadcast Network. He writes a lot. You'll find articles from him in Forbes, the Los Angeles and San Francisco Daily Journals, as well as tax notes, and all over the place here on the Legal Broadcast Network. Thanks, Rob. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
This presentation has been a service of ATG Trust. I'm Scott Drake, and you're watching the Legal Broadcast Network. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you something, too, that has something to do with independent contractor status, just because